In thinking about the writing process this week, I couldn't help but wonder how technology plays a part in that process. In this video, we'll be focusing on utilizing technology in the writing process to engage and motivate students, as well as to increase their quality of writing. The first journal article that I reviewed this week was titled Promoting Revision Through Blogging in a Second Grade Classroom. This particular teacher used kidblog.org to create a safe online environment for her students to share their work. Her purpose was to increase students' quality of writing through the difficult task of revision. Her students posted a post to their classroom blog where their peers could go on and ask questions and provide feedback to their work. During this time, the teacher modeled mini lessons on kind versus helpful comments. She really wanted her students to understand that there's a difference between being kind and complimentary and being helpful. So she worked with her students to provide helpful questions and feedback for their friends so that they could then go and revise their work. She used questioning, commenting, and increased proficiency throughout the year of their writing standards to improve her students' ability to revise their work. The outcome she noticed was that 73% of her students scored higher at their end of the year writing task as opposed to the beginning. And most importantly, students were motivated and engaged in the art of revision. The second resource that I looked at this week was Getting Students Excited About Learning, Incorporating Digital Tools to Support the Writing Process. This article was unique in that it focused on students with hearing impairments. And although I don't have any of those student needs in my classroom right now, I did love the way that they use Skype and other tools to really engage students who have difficulty with writing. I currently have a couple students who have severe difficulties with their written expression. So I'm thinking that using Skype and some other technological tools that I could improve the writing period for them during our day. In this article, they worked to incorporate technology as a tool to assist struggling students, but also to engage them in a real-world, authentic experience. Her students were working on an expository piece about their classroom pet. They used Skype to interview a local pet store employee and find out more information about fish. The students were engaged and in love with the fact that they could make that real-world connection, and the pet store was even willing to let them hang up flyers that they made based on their research. So the outcomes of this article were that students revised a quality piece of writing, an essay and a poster, and they established a sense of value in their work, and they found that their work was really meaningful. The last article that I looked at for the week was using Storybird in Young Learners Creative Writing Class. So the tool used here was Storybird, which is an online application. And the purpose was, in this article, to help English language learners in that creative writing process. We all know that for those students who are learning English as their second language, vocabulary and the words in the English language can be very difficult for them. So this application combines art and drawings with writing. So the teacher was modeling how to use the drawings to inspire writing and language development. And as the outcome, the students were in that powerful, active, and autonomous role for their writing. They really took the ownership and were really excited and asking to be using the Storybird writing that their teacher had showed them. We know that students who struggle with reading and writing often don't want to engage in those tasks. So the fact these students were so engaged and willing and wanting to be using Storybird was inspirational, because I have students in my class who are learning English as a second language, and I know that this program will be very beneficial for them. Thinking about my research this week, I think about how I can apply that to the classroom. We have an abundance of technology in our room, such as a Touch-It interactive TV, iPads and laptops, and we use Google Classroom. So I really want to make sure that I'm utilizing those tools daily to help my students with writing. I want my students to engage in more revision activities like the teacher in that first resource. What mini lessons and peer commenting can I incorporate into my lessons and station work so that I'm really getting my students to revise their work? and see that writing is a process. As a teacher, I want to provide more specific teacher feedback so that my students know what they're doing really well and where they need to improve. I want to differentiate using the technology that I have to meet the needs of my students. Not all of my students would be ready for a blog post, but I know that I can use some of the other resources provided in this video to help them and scaffold them to be able, hopefully, to be adding to our blog posts. And I want to create inspiring and engaging ways for my students to write. I want to move away from the cut and dry 5-paragraph essay. What real-world experiences can my students be writing about and engaging in so that their writing becomes more important to them and valuable? The connection to my classroom is that I want to be utilizing all these tools that I have and this new knowledge that I've gained from this work this week. So really utilizing Google Classroom. I don't use it to its potential right now, and I would love to be having my students go on and posting and sharing with each other. Because the beauty of Google Classroom is that everyone that's involved in the class can see it. So they can view their peers' work and they can comment and question what their peers are writing about to help them. Also with Google Classroom, I'd like to be providing feedback for my students on their work and what they can improve on. And then lastly, having them go back to revise their thinking and revise their work by some of the comments and feedback that were left for them. I would also like to use our Touch It TV to engage in writing through mentor texts. There's an infinite number of websites out there where we can pull up books, and I'd like to be using that more often as a way to engage my students in books that really show great writing. And last, to differentiate technology to meet the needs of all of my students. So using the different applications depending on the needs of my students and what would suit their needs best. And last, some activities that I could use technology to differentiate in my classroom. We do an animal report. So I want to use some of the tools that I've learned, such as Skype and Google Classroom and all those feedback that students could be using for each other to really help them to become better writers for that animal report. And then lastly, incorporating technology into my weekly writing station. Instead of students writing in their journals, they can be posting to our Google Classroom or using one of the other applications to engage in writing that is more valuable to them. And going along with the value, more student choice. What do they want to be writing about and how do they want to be writing about it? So to wrap up, I would like to utilize technology as part of the writing process, use a variety of tools that best fit the needs of my students, and allow my students to express their ideas in ways that make sense and are valuable to them. And I know that based on the research this week that my students will show an increased engagement, enthusiasm for their writing, and their quality of work will increase. They will engage in revision, and most of all, they're going to become empowered writers who want to write. Included here are the resources that I used for my presentation this week.